Hello and welcome back to Caverns of the Snow Witch. So we're going to try and do another round of this and beat the game this time. I have been reading up on the internet about this book because it's been a while since I actually played it. It turns out it is rather, well, not difficult, but there's only you have to follow a very specific path to beat it. So I am going to use a walkthrough because I'm pretty sure you guys don't want to see me play the game another 100 times or so to actually try and beat it. Yeah, so I will use this. I'll put a link into the solution that I used. Turns out there's a few things that I missed the first time I played, which is very useful later on. So yeah, we'll make a start. I've already rolled because you also need to have fairly good skill for this one, and I managed to get a 22 stamina, 11 skill, 10 luck, so I thought that would probably be better. So yeah, we'll go through. We've done this before, obviously, but Too Long Didn't Read version. We're helping Big Jim's son, protecting his caravans, and you get interrupted while you're traveling along to be told that there is a blah blah blah. Yeah, a big creature or a yeti, or is it? Yeah, pretty sure it's a yeti from memory. And then you come back and say you'll kill it, but you want 50 gold pieces. He's not overly happy, but you'll do it. And you leave first thing in the morning. So off we go. So we'll cross the crevasse because that's the best thing to do, and test our luck. Now another thing I've also learned is you can actually not cheat, but you can manipulate the dice roll a little bit. If it comes up with a number you don't want, you can actually click again and it will kind of move them around a little bit. So I'm going to use that as well to try and help myself if things go bad. Also, I'll use bookmarks in this one as well, which are just up here. So we were lucky, which was good. Head across the bridge, and here come the wolves. So I'll put a bookmark in here. No, that's if I want to load a bookmark. I want to add a bookmark. Yep. Okay, so we'll fight the wolves. This should go pretty easily because of the high skill that I've got. No, that wasn't good. As you see, I can do that, which helped me out a little bit. Made it worse. Yep, that's fine. Also good. Yep, that's fine. Fighting the second one. Yep, that was good. Yep, no worries with that one. Also good. Just get that bit of a bump. No, didn't quite work. Oh, draw. And just won that one. Awesome. Cool. Alright, on we go. Yep, and we're heading into the storm. We need to take a shelter in the snow. I have to eat 2 portions of provisions, so I don't get any stamina back, and the blizzard dies away. Yes, we'll go in the hut. This is where the stew is, so we'll warm up the stew to have some stew. Now, this is where it changes from what I did last time. The walkthrough says not to take the weapons, so I'll leave them alone. And off we go. Lose a point. Here's the Yeti. This time we don't have a spear, so it'll be a little bit trickier. And we'll put a bookmark in just in case. he has the same skill as me, so I want to try and win as many as I can, obviously. See if we can dig that a little bit, not quite. That's fine. No. Got that one. That's a draw. No, got that one. That's one. Oh, another. Jeez, 2 double sixes. Wow. That one we get. Let's see if I can make that a bit more in my favor. No, I made it worse. Yep, that one I've got. That's fine. Alright, let's see if I can make that. Yep, there we go. Made a bit for me, and I won. Okay. Yep, so of course he tells me where the cave is. And off I go. That's why I need to test my luck here. Yep, I'm good. Now I think from memory, when I was actually playing the books, whenever these luck would come up, these tests of luck would come up, I wouldn't reduce the amount, so I'd always have the same amount of luck all the way through, unless I was doing it for the battle stuff. But obviously, in my youth, I was unaware that you reduced your luck no matter what. So we're lucky, so we avoid the avalanche, which is good. Let's see. Ah, yep, so we've found the entrance to the cave. Now we want to turn right and find the bowl, drink some of the liquid, get our 3 stamina points back, and continue on. Here's the mountain elf again. Tell him that we have come to join. He says, well, no, what are you talking about? You haven't got a collar. And tell him that I'm actually going to kill her instead. He said, ah, and now he gives you his cloak. And off we go. We head off to the right. Now this is where it gets different again, because in the first playthrough I talked to them and got some stale cake. You actually have to attack them to get a cool item, so we would do that. Yep, I'll go in. Now I will attack them. And now the Neanderthal is going to attack me. Actually, I'll put a bookmark in just in case. He's only got 7 skill, so it should be pretty easy. Yep. Oh, tough. Geez, double 6, yeah. Might be in my favor. Yep, just. And that one's good as well. Awesome. Okay, so I've won that one. Now this is where it gets a bit different, so I'll actually start reading reading what's going on. Here we go. The gnome does not want to end up like the Neanderthal and runs out of the cave shouting for help. If you wish to search through the cupboards and risk the gnome returning with reinforcements, 194. If I'd rather leave, turn left. Turn to 198, so I'm going to have a look around. Yeah, here we go. The cupboards are full of pots, pans, bowls, and spoons. One cupboard is locked, and you have to prise it open with your sword. It contains the gnome's personal possessions: a silver flute, a rune-carved wooden stick painted with blue and yellow hoops, an old withered rose, and an old leather-bound book entitled The Secret of Toads. So, what should I do? Let's blow on the flute. You blow into the flute and a jolly tune comes from it without you having to play a note. You decide to put the magic flute in your backpack. So what else should we do? Let's have a look at the runes. Your knowledge of runes is limited, and you put the stick in your backpack, hoping to decipher it later. We shall smell the rose. Despite being withered, the rose smells fresh and fragrant. As you inhale, you feel as though you are breathing new life into your lungs. You gain 3 stamina points. That's good. I will read the book. Flicking up the clasp which keeps the book shut, a tiny hidden needle grazes your finger. There is poison on its tip to trap unwary thieves. You lose 4 stamina points. Just as well I smelled the rose. I am still alive, so I'm good. The gnome's other possessions remain in the cupboard, but do you dare examine them? You may open the book, which I will do. There is no writing in the book, just a recess cut into the pages which holds a talisman on a golden chain. The talisman is a jade frog. Let's put it on. You are now wearing an amulet of courage. You gain 2 skill points. So does that put me on 13 or on 12? No, still 11. That's strange. Let's go left into the tunnel. Did I get it? No. Obviously it just puts your score back up if you lost some. That's fine though. In the distance you hear chanting voices. Before long the tunnel ends at the entrance to a large cavern. Kneeling down before an ice effigy in the shape of a demon, their hooded faces pressed to the ice floor and worship are 10 of the Snow Witch's followers. There are 2 exits from the cave, one to your left and one to your right. If you are wearing a cloak, which we are, now we get to test our luck to see how things are going. You pull down the hood of your cloak as far as possible and walk towards the tunnel exit on your right. Let's see how we go. We need an 8, I believe. No, still not good. I'm going to use the bookmark function to go back and do that again. There we go, it's better. We are indeed lucky. None of the worshippers suspects that you are an intruder and you're able to walk through their temple without trouble into the other tunnel. Okay, the tunnel ends quite soon at a T-junction. To your left you can hear cries for help if you wish to turn left, which we do. The tunnel ends at the edge of a pit out of which a dwarf is trying to climb, but he keeps on slipping back. The floor of the pit is covered with large ice boulders which have crashed down from a shaft above the pit. One lands on the dwarf's shoulders and you hear wild cheers from the top of the shaft as he tumbles to the floor. The dwarf sees you and shouts, "Curse you, stranger! If you do not aid me, I see that you are not wearing a collar." And we do want to help him out. You lie down and lean over the edge of the pit and tell the dwarf to grab your arm. Much to the annoyance of the spectators above, the dwarf escapes from the pit. You run together back to the junction where the dwarf turns right. You tell the dwarf that you intend to carry straight on to find the Snow Witch, as turning right will lead you back to the Hall of Worship. The dwarf tells you that he must escape quickly and return to his village now that he is free. He thanks you for helping him and hands you a leather bag, then runs off. But before he disappears, he turns and shouts, "Beware, beware the white rat!" You open the leather bag and find a sling and 3 iron balls. You pack them away and set off down the tunnel. Let's take a drink. The tunnel through the glacier soon leads into the mountainside itself, and the walls change from ice to bare rock. You enter a large cavern which has 3 other exits leading from it. One to your left, one to your right, and the main one carved as a giant skull lying directly opposite. As you enter, an ugly robed man steps out of the mouth of the skull holding a glass prism in his outstretched hands. He commands you to turn back as only the Snow Witch's personal servants are allowed inside the mountain. Now, I do have a magic flute, but I'm going to attack him. Because from memory last time that went quite well. And it's here we go. The ugly man sneers as you draw your sword. He rubs the prism and suddenly 3 identical images of himself appear. They walk towards you. Each one has a dagger raised in his right hand. 2 of the images must be illusions, but which one will you strike with your sword? Left, middle, or right? We'll go right, because that's the correct one. The illusionist screams in pain as your sword cuts into his side. He drops to the floor as his other 2 images fade away. As you step over him, he starts to laugh and stands up, his wound completely healed. I want to smash his prison. You pretend to give up the fight and then suddenly leap at the illusionist, catching him momentarily off guard. You manage to snatch the prism out of his hands and throw it onto the floor. It shatters into tiny pieces and the illusionist turns and flees into the skull mouth, screaming at the top of his voice. Smoke rises from the shattered fragments of the prism and forms itself into the shape of a bald fat man, a genie. Hovering in midair, he bows and thanks you for releasing him. He tells you that if you call on him, he will make you invisible just once, as a token of his gratitude. Without saying another word, the image shimmers and disappears. You now have to decide which way to go. So do I want to go left, into the skull, or in the right? So I want to go into the skull. The tunnel soon leads into another cavern where you see a huge white-bearded man wearing white furs lifting a wooden chest onto a high shelf. He is a frost giant. There is only one other exit out of this lair via a tunnel in the opposite wall. If you wish to run through his lair into the tunnel opposite, or if I wish to attack him. Now I want to attack him. The frost giant has not yet noticed you. His face is creased as he concentrates on his task, oblivious to anything around him. If you have a sling and wish to use it against the frost giant, which I will, let's put a bookmark in first. You place an iron ball in the sling and twirl it around your head before releasing it at the frost giant. Roll 2 dice. Wonderful. Pass the skill chest. The iron ball flies through the air and hits the frost giant on the temple. His huge frame crumples to the floor like a house of cards. The wooden chest he was lifting breaks open, spilling its contents. You find 3 ornate rings and a cracked bottle which emits a sweet scented odor. If you wish to try on any of the rings, turn to 65. Yes, please. Okay, having rubbed the bottle and sniffed your fingers, you decide it is only perfume inside. You examine the 3 rings and decide which one to put on your fingers. Sorry. We'll put on the gold one. You are now wearing a magic ring which will enable its wearer to resist the effects of freezing cold. You gain 1 luck point. Now I can either put on the silver or the copper ring. I'm going to put the copper ring on. You are now wearing a magic ring which has the power to summon a warrior to your aid once only. You gain 1 luck point. And that'll do there. You soon arrive at a crossroads in the tunnel. However, you have no time to examine the left and right branches as a strange humanoid is advancing towards you from straight ahead. Before you stands a crystal warrior, one of the Snow Witch's personal guardians who has been sent to deal with you. He is made of quartz which has been animated by the Snow Witch's sorcery. Each weapons will not harm the crystal warrior. A sword is useless. If you possess a warhammer, you may succeed in smashing the crystal warrior to pieces. Oh, we don't have one because we didn't grab it from the house earlier. You clutch your weapon tighter as you review your options. If you rescued the genie from the prism, you may call on him now. We'll do that. The genie appears, hovering above the crystal warrior. He snaps his fingers and you immediately become invisible. The crystal warrior punches the air with his rough quartz fist, but you are able to slip by him unnoticed. By the time the invisibility wears off, you are well away from your adversary. Further on, the tunnel ends at a T-junction. Now, do I want to go left or do I want to go right? I will go right. The tunnel ends at a wooden door which is locked. You press your ear to it and hear the sound of feet slowly shuffling across the floor. Do I want to knock on the door or turn around? I'm going to knock on the door. A man comes to the door. His skin is a sickly grey-white colour. His vacant eyes and slow movements are definitely those of a zombie. I will fight the zombie. The zombie picks up a club from behind the door and shuffles forward to fight you. He's a fairly intelligent zombie then. Right, off we go. Shouldn't have too many problems with this guy. Even with that, we should be able to win. Yeah. Maybe just keep going. I still won. Excellent. The zombie was probably in charge of the storeroom that the door opens into. Jars and bottles of various shapes and sizes line the walls, and many boxes and barrels are stacked up on the floor. You search quickly through them and find little of interest except for a jar of ground minotaur horn, some garlic, a box full of teeth, a jar of pickled lizard's tails, and 4 large dragon eggs. As you will not be able to fit everything into your backpack, you may only take 3 of these items. I'm going to take some ground minotaur horns, some garlic, and the dragon eggs. Leaving the room, you walk back to the junction and head on straight down the tunnel. The tunnel ends at a wooden door which opens when you turn the handle. You walk into a massive high-ceilinged chamber which ends in a wall of ice. In the center of the chamber is an open marble sarcophagus with its lid propped up against its side. A white rat suddenly jumps out of the sarcophagus and runs towards you. It stops in front of you and starts to grow and change shape. Excuse me. Do you have some ground minotaur horn? This was the white rat that the dwarf was telling us about before. You remember an old legend that ground minotaur horn is the only substance that can stop a metamorphosis spell from working. Well, that's very handy, isn't it? You quickly sprinkle all of the powder on the growing creature and relax a little as it shrinks back to a white rat again. The legend was true. Intrigued by the open sarcophagus, you decide to walk over and examine it. As you approach the sarcophagus, a woman's eerie laughter echoes around the chamber. A beautiful woman wearing white fur slowly rises out of the sarcophagus, and when she smiles, you see the telltale fangs and realize with horror that the Snow Witch is a vampire. Do you have any garlic? We do have some garlic. The Snow Witch recoils from the garlic, giving you time to think. You know that a vampire can only be killed by driving a stake through its heart. We do have a carved rune stick. Taking the stick from your backpack, you thrust it at the heart of the Snow Witch. If your skill is higher than 10, which it is. Oh, we got an achievement. Ding dong, the Snow Witch is dead. The stake pierces the Snow Witch's heart, and her death wail makes you shudder. She starts to decompose, and soon all that is left is a pile of dust on the floor. You see a vague shape in the wall of ice at the end of the chamber, and decide to investigate. You see, frozen into the ice wall, an ornate trunk open and filled with golden jewels. You hack away at the ice until you reach the trunk. A golden idol is the first thing you pick up, but suddenly it bursts out of your hands and changes into a golden warrior, a sentinel left to guard the treasure. So we have to find him. So we'll put a bookmark in. Okay, he's got 9 skills, so he's a bit closer to me. Let's try and draw on that one, that's fine. I win that one. Definitely win that one. Another one for me. Yep, once they stop moving. One more, come on. Now a draw. Yep, got him. The guardian of the Snow Witch's treasure is dead, and you are free to help yourself to her riches, although there is a limit to how much you can carry. You may fill your backpack with gold pieces, and you count 600 in all. However, for each 150 you take, you will have to remove 1 item from your backpack and leave it behind. Do I take all 600? Do I take 450, 300, or 150? Now, what items have I actually got? Because I don't want to leave anything behind that's useful. Well, I don't need the stick anymore because I've killed the Snow Witch. At least I don't think so anyway. No, I'm looking good on that. I won't need the cloak anymore. The magic flute? I don't know if I'll actually need that anymore. I don't think it ever was actually useful. Maybe I'll hang on to it just in case. I'll take 300. Actually, I'm going to bookmark just in case things go wrong. Okay, it doesn't look like we need any of that stuff anymore. No, it looks good. Okay, awesome. Alright, so we got 300 gold pieces, so that's always good. Satisfied with your new riches, you fasten up your backpack. Just as you finish filling your backpack, you hear the sound of running feet coming down the tunnel towards the chamber. You stand up and draw your sword, wondering if you can survive much more hard combat. Two men suddenly appear at the door, a dwarf and an elf, but they do not look as though they are about to attack you. They are smiling broadly, and they both try and speak at once, the elf finally taking command. You have killed her! We are free! We will soon be able to take off our obedience collars. Now we wish to repay you, friend, by helping you escape. You cannot leave the caverns by the way you came, because the Snow Witch's followers are waiting for you. And the tunnels are alive with goblins. Our fellow elves and dwarves are battling against them now to give you time to flee. We must waste no more time. To your surprise, the elf walks straight towards the cavern wall opposite the door, and appears to pass right through it. Another of the Snow Witch's illusions, comments the dwarf. An escape route she never got the chance to use. The trouble is, we've never used it either. The dwarf laughs to himself and walks towards the wall, you following behind. Walking through the illusion, you find yourself in a narrow torchlit tunnel, which you walk down in single file. It soon ends at a junction, and you discuss which way to turn. We will go to the left. As you walk along, the elf introduces himself. My name is Red Swift, and he is known as Stub, he says, pointing to the smiling dwarf. We met here as slaves in the service of the vile Snow Witch. We both now hope to return to our villages. I live in the Moonstone Hills, and Stub comes from Stonebridge. If we manage to escape from these infernal caverns, you are more than welcome to come and stay with us. Stonebridge is on the way to my village in the hills. It is also a long way off. Before Red Swift can continue, Stub shouts and points to an orb lying on the floor. It is made of glass, and in the torchlight it seems to glow with swirling colours. Leave it, commands Red Swift. We do not need it, and it could be a trap. If you wish to ignore Red Swift's advice and pick up the orb, I will. When you pick it up, the orb starts to get warmer, and its colours change rapidly and swirl around. Red Swift and Stub back away, telling you to put it down. I'm going to hold on to it. Determined to discover the secret of the orb, you hold it in your outstretched hands. Its warmth starts to creep up your arms, and soon you are glowing all over and feeling warmer than you have been for weeks. I gain 3 stamina points and 1 luck point. You assure Red Swift and Stub that this orb of energy will warm them too, and they nervously pass it between them. In good spirits, you place the orb back on the floor and continue down the tunnel. After walking for another 5 minutes, the tunnel turns sharply right, and right again a few meters on. You will soon arrive at a junction, and after a discussion you decide to turn left rather than continue straight on. Placed against the left-hand wall of the tunnel, you see a large iron casket with a brass handle in the shape of a serpent. No one volunteers to open the casket, so you decide to draw lots. Or roll a dice. Actually, no, we'll add a bookmark first. A 6. Red Swift draws the short straw and reaches for the handle. Just as he is about to touch it, he draws his hand away. His elven intuition telling him that there is a trap. He inspects the casket more closely and finds a hidden catch underneath the handle. He presses it with his finger and the lid clicks open. Inside the casket is a pair of grey skin boots. Boots of the Elder Elves, he says with glee. What treasure! Nobody knows how to make these anymore. No matter what service you're walking on, no one will hear you if you're wearing these boots. Let us draw lots again to decide who shall wear them. We'll do it again. Let's see how we do this time. I rolled a 5. You draw the short straw and cheer at your good fortune. You gain 1 luck point. You kick off your old boots and put on the magical elfin boots. Striding off down the corridor without making the slightest sound, you cheerfully lead the way, and with jealous your looking companions follow. Oh, suck it up, guys. The tunnel soon ends at the T-junction. Stepping into the cross passage, you almost bump into a primitive-looking man wearing furs and carrying a large club. He is a caveman. You draw your sword and tell Red, Swift, and Stub to head quickly down the right-hand tunnel where you deal with the caveman. Nope, now I've got another fight. Okay. Oh, this shouldn't be too much of a problem. Dice is spazzing out there. Easy peasy. Now you can see why having a high skill stat it helps you a lot in this game. If we win, turn to 141. A pouch on the caveman's belt contains a star-shaped metal disc which you decide to put in your backpack. Not wishing to meet any more cavemen, you run along the tunnel to catch up with Red, Swift, and Stub. Cthulhu! The tunnel ends at a door which swings open before you even touch it. You look into a cavern and are surprised to see a Red, Swift and Stub kneeling in submission to a horrible robed creature with an octopus-like head. 2 of his tentacles are wrapped around your friends' heads, and they are trapped by the hypnotic powers of the Brain Slayer. If I'm wearing an amulet of courage, which I am. Waste of brain. Deny the Brain Slayer of a meal. The Brain Slayer's disgusting tentacles flail frantically as it tries to draw you towards it. Fortunately, the amulet gives you the courage to resist its attempt to hypnotize you. You draw your sword to attack the foul creature. It releases Red, Swift, and Stub, who fall to the floor clutching their heads in agony. I'll fight this guy. He's very close to my skill level. But that should be high enough, yep. Definitely. That's not so good, but let's see if I can turn it around a bit. No, unfortunately not. There we go, that's better. Yep. There we go. I'm victorious! As you withdraw your sword from the vile Brain Slayer, you hear your 2 companions groaning as they slowly come round. They explain that the Brain Slayer drew them into the cavern and they were powerless to resist. You examine the chamber and see another door in the opposite wall. There are also 2 clay pots in a recess in the cavern wall, one red and one grey. What will I do? I'll look inside the red pot. Lying at the bottom of the red pot is a square metal disc which you decide to put in your backpack. We'll look inside the grey pot as well. Lying at the bottom of the grey pot is an old parchment scroll with an unbroken wax seal. Do I want to break the seal? I do. As soon as you begin reading the scroll, the writing starts to fade. Being a skill test. Easy. Speed reader. Read the spell in the scroll before it fades away. Another achievement. Before the writing fades away, you learn a spell which will protect you against an attack by an air elemental. I gain 1 luck point. You memorize the words Gul Sang Abidar, and then decide what to do next. We've looked in the red pot, so we'll continue on. The door opens into yet another tunnel, and you begin to wonder whether you'll ever find your way out of the caverns of the Snow Witch. You look at Red Swift and Stub, but they do not appear to be very concerned. The tunnel soon ends at another door, and you notice a dagger sticking out of its oak paneling. I don't want to pull the dagger out because it could be a trap. The door opens into another tunnel which leads off into the distance. Stub begins to complain about being tired and hungry, so you decide to sit down and rest. As you still have provisions, you eat one yourself and give one each to Red, Swift, and Stub. After resting for half an hour, you set off again, and eventually the tunnel ends at a T-junction. Let's go left. The tunnel soon comes to a dead end. An ornate shield hangs from an iron nail on the end wall. Do I want to take the shield? Yes. As soon as you touch the shield, a howling wind starts to blow down the tunnel towards you, almost knocking the three of you off your feet. Then you see a whirlwind coming down the tunnel, gathering up all the rocks and stones in its path. If the words Gul Sang Abidar mean anything to you, which they do, taking this shield has unleashed the fury of an air elemental. Fortunately, you remember the words on the scroll and utter them as the elemental draws near. It disappears as quickly as it appeared, and all is calm again. You sling the shield onto your arm, gaining one skill point, and walk together back down the tunnel and past the last junction. The tunnel ends at another door, and and there should be an old piece of parchment is pinned to it. There is faded writing on the parchment, but you do not understand the language. Knowing that elves speak many languages, you ask Red Swift to try and read it. As he reads, his eyes widen with terror. You ask him what is wrong, but he refuses to reply. He rips the parchment off the door and tears it into tiny pieces. He turns the door handle and says, "Let's get going, there is no time to lose." You and Stub look at each other and shrug your shoulders, deciding simply to obey the troubled Red Swift. The door opens into another tunnel. After walking down it for a few meters, you come to a place where water is dripping down continuously from stalactites overhead. If I have a shield, which I do. The water looks harmless enough, but you do not wish to get wet and cold. Cold and wet, same thing. You place the shield over your head and walk under the gentle waterfall. You throw the shield back for your companions to use, and you are soon on your way again. The tunnel runs straight on until it opens out into a cavern. The walls are covered with ice, and a large glass globe stands on an ice plinth in the center. Suddenly, an orc runs into the cavern from the tunnel opposite, and the globe immediately starts to radiate light. The outline of a face takes shape, one which you recognize, the Snow Witch. Her encased head starts to laugh, and then you hear her speak. In a chilling voice she says, "Although you killed me, you have not defeated me. My spirit can still defeat you. Watch carefully." The orc, who is standing by the globe, grips the metal collar around his neck and cries out, gasping for breath. His green face bulges as he desperately tries to stop the collar tightening. His efforts are futile, and he soon falls silently to the floor. That's the image on the front when you start the game. The Snow Witch's image sneers contemptuously and says, "I have no use for servants any longer, and I know that two of you are still wearing my obedience collars. I will enjoy watching you die next as a forerunner to the agony I have in store for your impotent warrior friend." You refuse to watch Red Swift and Stub die helplessly, and you rack your brain to think of a way to overcome the spirit of the Snow Witch. Do you want to try and smash the globe, run through the cavern to the opposite tunnel, or fire an iron ball from your sling? We'll do that. You quickly load your sling and aim it at the globe. Put a bookmark in. Yep, got it. The iron ball flies straight and true. When it hits the Snow Witch's globe, a bolt of white light shoots out from the globe towards you. Test your luck. No, both were fine. So I passed that. You quickly dive onto the floor and watch the energy belt pass overhead and slam into the cavern wall behind you. You sit up and see that the Snow Witch's globe is cracked, but she appears to have come to no harm. She watches you carefully, ready for your next move. With friends like these, slay the zombie replicas. As you try to stand up, the Snow Witch concentrates her powers on Red, Swift, and Stub. Their metal collars tighten and they both clutch their throats as if gasping for breath. You struggle to your feet, yelling insults at the Snow Witch, mocking her cowardly way of dealing with defenseless slaves. You challenge her to a combat of whatever type she wishes. She laughs, saying, "Even though I've beaten you, I enjoy games. I will play." She releases her stranglehold on Red, Swift, and Stub and falls silent, obviously devising some fiendish contest. Suddenly you hear the sounds of shuffling footsteps coming from the tunnel opposite. An elf and dwarf enter the cavern. They look almost identical to Red, Swift, and Stub, except that their vacant looks and putrid white flesh indicate they are both zombies. The Snow Witch tells you to fight them while she invents a game for you to play. The zombies lumber forward and you are forced to fight the terrible replicas of your friends.